All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Briones Pickleball Podcast. Happy New Year. Happy 2025. Hopefully you have your best year on the court and off the court. Today, we are going to be talking about the new partnership, Ben Johns, Gabe Tardio. Huge news. And we're also going to be doing our second half of our Q&A where players from all over that follow us and support us ask questions. We're going to be helping you with your game. But again, like our last episode, Caden's not back yet from vacation, but we have Dawson. Welcome, Dawson.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
So Dawson's going to kind of be moderating the questions, giving a little bit of his insight. And here we go. We'll just jump right into it. Let's jump right into it. First things first, if you do want an opportunity to train with me live in person on the court, make sure you check out our 5-day intensives where we spend a whole week together. So really fun time. Dawson, just really quickly, you've came to a training of ours before, a little bit different, but just quick, just quick thoughts. How was it? Quick feedback.
It was a lot of information in a little bit of time, and it was like watching every single one of your YouTube videos condensed into 2 days. And it was like, it's like if you were playing a game and as soon as you messed up, somebody stopped and then, because I'm sure everyone here is familiar with your YouTube videos, was like, hey, look at this time frame to this time frame where you explain how to do this. But it was live in person. It was awesome. It was a lot of information to take home and practice, and I felt a lot more confident afterwards. So it was a great experience.
And that was a 2-day.
That was a 2-day.
And that's why it probably seemed very short. And that's why we actually offer these 5 days now. Dawson, you haven't been to one yet, but maybe in the future.
Hopefully.
But sign up in a link below. We'd love to see you. Next thing I want to go over is pickleball tip of the week. Usually I do this, but we're gonna actually. So Dawson, you're rising the ranks. You're practicing your game a lot. We'll hear from a player that is trying to improve his game daily. So what's a tip that you can tell the viewers that has helped your game in the past few months, and then let's talk about it.
All right. The number one tip I would give that's helped my game out, it's super simple, keeping it short and simple. Return deep and aggressive. I think it almost changes the whole pace of the game if your return is deep and aggressive. So been practicing that a lot and putting it into my game. So
okay, that was very short. Returns, man, they're huge.
They dictate the third. So
they dictate the third. It's there to make the argument how the return game might be a little bit more important than having a huge serve. I think you gotta have those first 3 shots, gotta have them locked down, but the return, because you're giving up points in regular, talking about traditional scoring, the serve is important to improve, and we talk about that in a lot of our videos, but the return is huge, because if you don't put pressure first on that return, that other team is going to be, especially if they have good drives. Tennis players, non-tennis players with good drives, they're going to be putting you on the defense pretty quickly.
For sure.
Great. Cool.
Yeah.
So work on your returns. Dawson, is that something like that's what you've been working on, but in match play? Are you doing any drills? How are you working on your returns?
I'd say both. I work on it a lot in just drilling, and it's like the easiest drill to do. I literally just grab a buddy and we stand, diagonal from each other, and I serve the ball, he returns it, and then after the return, I catch it, and then I serve it and return it and catch it, serve it, return it and catch it. And then he serves it and I return it, and then, he catches it, he serves it, I return it, and over, and that's literally just the drill. It's just 2 shots.
Okay.
Very game-like.
I like that. I would add one thing. Maybe you can try this next time, Dawson, but when I'm practicing my returns or serves or vice versa, I like to play out to the 4th.
Oh, yeah.
So keep that in mind, because it makes it a little bit more realistic. So let's just say I I'm working on my big serves, which I was working on this morning, then you're returning, right? Work on your return. It's really important, right? The ideal goal is to get up to that non-volley zone line in a strong position. So, and then it actually helps me work on my drive. So I do it to the first 4 shots, and then I have the server always drive. Does that make sense? Yep. So like you're practicing a big serve and you're practicing a big drive, and the returner is practicing a good return in a first volley, which is the 4th. Right. So another iteration you can try, but
I like that.
Yeah. But let's get right into the news, everyone. We are gonna, again, we're right after this segment, we're going to do a big Q&A. So stick around. There's a lot of questions from viewers like you, listeners like you. We really appreciate it. Make sure you follow us on all accounts on Briones Pickleball. We love you all. Now let's get to the big news here. Ben Johns has finally kind of announced and confirmed his partnership. Maybe not the whole entire year, but a good bulk of it with Gabe Tardio, who was on our podcast. So actually, if you want to check that out, Gabe was actually nice enough to come here with Andre Diascu, and that was a good podcast right after they won in Mesa last year. But right here, Dink Pickleball. Shout out to the Dink Pickleball. It says here, as previously reported, Ben Johns and Gabe Tardio will partner regularly in 2025. Johns confirms Tardio is fresh off the announcement of his $800,000 contract with the UPA. How dominant can the duo be? Time will tell. Well, we're going to talk about that. Thoughts, Dawson?
Okay, so first starting personality-wise, I think it's a really cool mix.
Or is it?
No, yeah. No, I think it's gonna be a really cool mix to watch, and I think that's gonna be a fun. I don't know. It'll be a fun team to watch because both of them are very composed. They kind of have their own unique style. I mean, Ben's style is just the art of being the best, but he's super consistent, and Gabe's got some really tricky shots that, are definitely his own shots.
Yeah.
And I think Gabe needs someone like Ben who can simplify the game a little bit. I mean, that's kind of what J-Dub was to him last year, except now you've got somebody who's even, more consistent and simplified. So I think it's going to be really fun to watch. It'll be really cool.
Yeah, so that last question on this article, how dominant can this duo be? We will have to see, but my thoughts here, they will be. I think it's going to be a very, very tough team to beat, and go ahead.
I'd put my money on that.
Yeah, and we'll get. I want to, as from a coach's perspective, watching the game, watching all the finals, watching these players develop, and watching the game become more aggressive, and watching the evolution of the big right. We could call it a strong right, where the right side plays very aggressively in the middle. Obviously, Ben is coming off of a partner who is very consistent and is very good at what he does, which was calling, but again, the aggression wasn't there. So this is going to be a totally different look for Ben. And I just want to kind of talk through a few things so that you get you guys thinking, get your feedback. Comment below right now. What do you think we're going to see out of Ben and Gabe? Are we going to see them be successful right away, or is it going to take time? My hunch is we will see success very, very quickly. And I'm going to show you. Hopefully, I'm going to talk through a couple of things. Okay. So these are just screenshots here, and I want to talk about this. If you're listening to the podcast in your car or on Spotify, Apple, whatever, we really appreciate it. I'm going to try to explain here. Let's first talk about Ben Johns here, and this is what we will typically see, right? Ben plays a big left. He typically has his right foot on that center line or a little bit over it. And that's because he's creating a lot of offense from the middle of the court. So in the previous partnership, Colin doesn't have to do a ton. He just needs to get balls back in play, let Ben do his thing. and Ben just creates so much chaos from the middle of the court. So this is the typical position we can see usually from the Johns and Ben playing with Colin. Now, if we just look at the position, and this is a screenshot of Gabe Tardio and us, actually Federico Staksrud, and we actually see a mirror opposite, right? We see Tardio with his left foot over the sideline he's on his right side, and he has very nasty flicks. He has so much offense off of his backhand in this position and his forehand because he reaches in with both, shrinking that kitchen line and really making the middle of the court a little dangerous to hit in if you don't keep it down. So in this screenshot here, right, we have Colin, pushed out wide, and we have Ben again mirroring his future partner Gabe Tardio here, and this is what we kind of see. And in this position, again, if you're watching this, if you get pulled out wide in this position, like Colin, okay, so let's say you're on the right side, a tough dink is hit to you, you get pulled out wide. The smart shot to go here is the middle, right? We don't want to get Ernie straight on. It would be by Fed. Again, in this position, when the ball is that far outside your hips, if you go cross court, it could be a really tough ball. But someone like a Tardio, really offensive, leaning in, big right, strong right, it makes it where you have to hit very, very good dinks. So that being said, the thing that I think of, I'll get your thoughts on this, Dawson, after kind of breaking that down. But the thing that I think about, and actually Ben Johns mentioned it in the interview in his sister's podcast, but they just have to really figure out the middle. And one of the things I thought was really interesting that Ben talked about is, there's going to be times where Ben's going to be bigger, and then which means taking more of the middle, and then Gabe Tardio's at times going to be bigger in the middle with his backhand or forehand. So they're going to have to figure out kind of that ebb and flow, that dynamic. And I do think, these are elite players. They're going to figure it out really well. I think that they're going to try maybe at times for Ben to play big and then Tardio to play big. I think it's going to depend on dink patterns. I think it's going to depend on a lot of different things. But it is going to be tough because there's not a lot of places to go, safe places. Any thoughts, Dawson?
Yeah, I think
anything.
You know what? I think it's going to be interesting because if you're watching Ben and Colin right now, one thing that's very apparent with dink rallies is they last a very long time, and they're extremely. I'm sure everyone's seen those videos where they break down Ben and Colin's dinks, where it's like the same spot and it's like 16 shots on each side.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a little different this year. I think obviously there's going to be that consistency because they're at the pro level, but I think it's going to be interesting to see the creativity that Gabe's going to bring to Ben's game, on those dink rallies and stuff, whether it's ending them early because he can poach a backhand flick in the middle, or just the difference. But yeah, I think it's going to be really fun to watch.
Well, again, if we really had to sum up the skill or the main thing that Gabe has, which Colin didn't, it's going to be the ability to attack.
Oh, 100%.
Attacking is huge. We will see, compared to the Johns playing and Gabe and Ben playing, we're gonna see the rallies are gonna be statistically shorter. I don't see them. 100%. I don't see them being longer, and the players are gonna have to figure out kind of where to dink the ball. And actually,
and just to
go ahead
real quick, one huge thing I think, if at least what I would think through if I was now playing against Ben and Gabe instead of Ben and Colin, is your speed ups have to be so much more precise.
Yeah.
Because you look at someone like Gabe, everyone talks about and knows that Gabe has extremely fast hands. This is going to be a totally different story when when it comes to speeding up off the bounce. And we might see teams trying to be a little safer and trying to keep that ball down, little more.
It would be really interesting. And I'm going to give one little strategy thing as I think about this more, and we're going to have to see this play out. Okay. But again, for those of you with the pickleball mind, as a coach, I'm always looking towards the future. So even before Ben and Gabe get into this partnership, here are my thoughts. If you're a team, which you're probably not going to be listening to this, hopefully you do on our podcast, but if you're a team that's going to be playing them in the future, here are a few thoughts that I have. Number one, if Gabe is playing this big on the right, you have to dink outside often to get him off. The same way, if Ben is playing a big left, you have to, like, see in this position, Dawson, when he's really close, you have to keep it to the backhand. So what's going to be really interesting is for most teams, the middle is typically safe, very safe, and you can kind of just hit balls there. And that's still going to be a big thing when playing against Gabe and Ben. But the thing is, your balls really have to be very, very low, and they got to be super precise. So I think mixing in your dinks, depending on if Gabe is playing a big right or Ben is playing a big left, you have to utilize the outer parts of the kitchen to move them off, then make them move their feet. Because as nasty as Gabe is, with all of his attacks, it's always going to be a little bit less effective if he has to really move for the ball. Same thing with Ben on the left side. Obviously, with Ben on the left and you're dinking anything to his backhand over here, again, none of these players really have weaknesses. But what I will say is, if I'm playing against Ben and Gabe and we're in this kind of position, the safest route is to hit it to the backhand, and really Ben doesn't have a ton of offense there. He's going to have Gabe leaning in the middle after that shot, but this is another reason why Ben is developing the two-handed roll. So once he gets really comfortable, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. Ben's going to be rolling a lot of balls, two-handers, towards the middle, two-hander towards the cross court to really get Gabe some good looks and some good pop-ups for him to flick. So we're going to see that. But again, if you're playing against Ben and Gabe, no easy task, but you have to be able to, A, move the ball around, keep it away from the middle at times, and B, if you are speeding up, you're definitely going to have to pick really good spots.
Right.
And I think there's a sense of, if you're playing Gabe and Ben and they're constantly switching big right to big left, I think you can actually find some spots that they're going to be a little bit confused, like not confused on, but like where they're still kind of figuring it out. So those are the spots I'd be looking for if I'm attacking them.
100%.
There we go. Lastly, we're going to, speaking of, again, we did talk about attacking. That is the main thing that, Colin really didn't have in his game. And we're talking, obviously he can attack. He's a great player, but we're talking about at an elite level. Check out our attacking masterclass. Go to attackingmasterclass.com if you want to keep up with the game. And we have a free video for you that you can check out with some key nuggets in there. Actually, Dawson's in it.
Yeah.
And key nuggets in there to really up your attacking at the kitchen line, where to attack, where to place your balls, trying to set up the point. So really important. Before we get into the Q&A, really appreciate you listening. Here we go. I'm going to read this quote from Ben. And this is Hannah asking him who he was going to partner up with at the time and what was his thought process. It says here, this is a quote from Ben: "Gabe was certainly kind of my first call. I contacted him first and was like, 'Are you available? Do you want to play?' He was definitely interested and wanted to," said Johns on the latest episode of the Hannah Johns podcast. "I think you will see us play a good amount of the year. Gabe was his first call." I listened to that podcast. This is what I was getting to. This is a really good one to read too. Hannah was asking Ben, how what thought process did you go through to like pick your partner? And I thought this was just really interesting. How I do most of my analysis as far as playing with people goes is really just how difficult it is for me to play against them. That usually is how I just kind of have my best benchmark or measure of players. I think in the past year, Gabe has definitely been the most difficult player for me to play. I think he just applies a lot of pressure. He makes people make errors. He attacks really well in so many different positions. You can definitely feel his presence. He's a shot maker and he's competitive. He's got everything you want in a partner. And that is why they are going to be very, very tough to beat.
I kind of think it's funny that he's saying that the difficulty is how to feel him out is him playing against him, which is kind of interesting because if you look at the team that knocked him out of the finals at San Clemente, it was J-Dub and Gabe. So he probably after that was like, gosh, how can I get Gabe on my side?
Well, and again, leave a comment below on your thoughts on this. A, it's smart. B, if you can't beat him, you join him.
Exactly.
So this is why it's going to be really, really tough. It's going to be exciting to see them. What I'm more excited about is how teams are going to kind of adjust, how teams are going to figure out. There's still some great teams. And, we got Hayden and Patrick Quinn. We got Diaskew. We got Federico Staksha. We have all these right side players, left side players. It's going to be interesting to see how we are going to kind of get some competition here. Which we will have, but yeah, that's it. That's that. All right, Dawson.
Yeah.
We're going right in to where are we going right into, man?
Q&A.
Here we go.
Waiting for you to tell me.
Yeah. All right. So these questions are from our viewers, our listeners. There is a link below to send more questions in. Thank you so much. If you are an avid pickleball player that just wants to develop their game, this is the podcast to listen to. Make sure you check out Briones Pickleball. We have a lot of content there to help you with your game. As I've been coaching almost 10 years. So we'll talk about that hopefully in a future podcast. But Dawson, roll it.
Sweet.
Give it a roll.
All right, let's go.
First
question from Jeff Partlow from Virginia. Regarding drops versus drives when in a defensive position, is it a good rule of thumb to hit drives when behind the baseline and drops when inside the baseline?
Okay, just had
thoughts on that.
Yeah, just had to stretch there a little bit. All right. So when it comes to drops and drives, we're talking about rule of thumbs here, and I do like that, Jeff. I do appreciate the question. I do like kind of that phrasing. Right, rule of thumb. There's no like hard and fast rules in pickleball. There's so many different situations. So one of the things, I'm just going to start off this podcast. If someone tells you something or a coach, you work with someone, and they're like, you have to do it this way, it's kind of a red flag. I would stay away from that just personally, but this is a great lead in. So Jeff, you're asking if you're behind the baseline, drops or hit drives when you're behind the baseline and drops when inside the baseline. It really depends on the ball for me, Jeff. Here's the thing. And I can kind of, let's talk about it like this. Let's start with balls that are inside the baseline. If the ball's very low and it maybe has a lot of spin and it's below my knee level, and I know that I have to get that, if I'm going to drive it, I have to get that ball up and down, and my players have good counters.
Right.
I don't want to be driving that ball. Right. So I'm going to go to drop. Now, the ball is above my knee level, thigh level, especially hip level. I'm driving that ball all day because I want to be aggressive and I want to attack. So it really depends on your ability to drive the ball at different heights and how comfortable you are. Now, it also depends on, are you even good at dropping? Do you even have the touch?
Right.
Because for some players, if your drops aren't there yet, it might be good to just drive the ball, then see what happens and play it out from there. The other thing is when you're behind the baseline, I guess I do tend to, I would say it's a 50-50 drop drive when I'm behind the baseline. Again, if I'm set, I'm really looking at my opponents, what holes I have, what weaknesses I have for counters, because no matter if I'm taking a ball that's kind of short in the court or deep, if I see something that I can kind of gain an advantage, I'm going to drive the ball, look for a fifth.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Dawson?
The biggest thing is just positioning. I mean, you talk about like, regarding drops versus drives in a defensive position. The thing is, you really should be trying to switch that position from defensive. I think your drives need to be aggressive, especially if you're behind the baseline. You can't just hit a crappy half like power drive, because the counter is going to be really good. But I think this question almost like it answers itself if you hit a really good drive from behind the baseline. Yes. And their counter isn't amazing, you're going to, take those 2 steps forward or 1 step forward into the baseline, and, their counter bounced up high. There's your second drive.
Or in the court, you mean? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just, your positioning and their position.
Yes. And again, Jeff, thank you for the question. Sorry, I totally overlooked the first question. So our first part of the question regarding drops versus drives when a defensive position. Okay, so now that kind of changes things a little bit. Again, I would say in a defensive position, what does that mean? First of all, Jeff, if you're falling back or if you're like running to the left or right, it's not a great position to be in general. So I would say actually pick the shot that you're more comfortable with hitting at a higher percentage when you're in a defensive position. So for some people, they have good touch, and if they're falling back, they're just gonna hit that drop, and it gives them time. If some players have great drives and you're in a defensive position, but you can really just hit it, then hit that. Right. But the big key thing is, if you're in a defensive position
from behind the baseline,
from on your third shot, there might be something, Jeff, that might be going wrong. Either you're leading in too much after your serve, something like that. Look at those different things. Let's jump to the next one. Thank you, Jeff. What do we got?
Same question. Oh, wait, no. Another question. Same Jeff. All right, Jeff, again.
All right, Jeff, here we go.
I've noticed that a great majority of players, even those at a 5-0 level, have very little variety in their serves. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we've gotten this question asked a lot. Basically, right, when we watch PPA, MLP, high-level play, we're seeing deep, fast topspin serve. There's really two. There's a kind of a loopier one that's medium pace, medium fast, but it's really high, lands deep. And then there's a power topspin serve, a little bit flatter, but still with topspin close to the baseline. We don't see a ton of slice serves, lob serves in the PPA. And the reason for that, Jeff, is really we're trying to pin them back at the highest level and even at lower levels. If I can hit my third shot while your feet aren't at the line, that is great for me. So again, what is that? What is the easiest way to do that? And that is to hit very deep, hard topspin balls, because they're kicking at you and they're hard to come in on.
Right. No, I agree. Perfectly said. I think, I think it's James Ignatowicz who said that if you're missing, what did he say? Like, you should be missing 1 out of 10 or something like that of your serves.
I think it was Zane.
Was it Zane? Okay.
Shout out to Zane Navratil. He said something to the effect
something like that.
Of hey, this is something to the effect, if you're not missing any serves in general, or even one serve every game, every 2 games, you're probably not going for enough. And I actually like that aggressive thinking. Now,
I agree.
Yeah, you don't want to be missing like 5 serves. That doesn't make sense. But it is a little conservative if you're never missing serves. So make sure you check on that.
Yeah, and in variety, just to real quick speak on that, that's something I've been I changed my serve up completely about a month ago. And one thing I'd say in variety-wise is just I do the same serve every single time. Variety for me is just going to be taking off speed. Right. Okay. So, I'm not going to go from variety as in like I do a topspin serve and then a slice serve and then I do a lob serve. For me, that's just going to be I do my topspin serve, and it's like 80% power, and then the next one I'll do it 40% power, and then I'll just to get them off footing a little bit.
Yeah, it's a timing thing. I really like that, Dawson. So variety, you can have the same topspin serve, but you can hit it higher or slower. These are the varieties that pros use: higher, slower, or faster. And then you have forehand, backhand, body.
For sure.
Right. So you can just with those. I mean, how many combinations is that? A ton. Here we go. Let's move on. What do we got?
Melissa from New Hampshire. I have an Eastern grip and would like to switch to a continental grip, but it feels so awkward when I hit forehands. How is the forehand drive, volley, and dink mechanics different in the grips? Do you have to turn your palm down more when swinging through the ball? I have looked for videos about this and didn't see any out there.
Great question. Melissa. All right. So I'm going to get right to it. We can move on to the next question. Thank you for the question all the way from New Hampshire. Seems like you're a 4-0. What level you play? 4-0. Melissa, I don't know why you're switching to Continental.
Yeah, keep it. That's perfect.
That's number one. I don't know if there's a coach that told you that, but again, to just reiterate, most of the pros, good players out there, when they're hitting their forehand serves and drives, I honestly can't think of a one pro that's in Continental. They're either in slight Eastern or further over to semi-Western, like a Kwang Duong at the extreme, and we have someone like a Federico Staksrud who is slightly Eastern around there. But yes, if you're driving in Continental, you are going to have to turn your palm down and you're going to have to invert your wrist, and it's unnatural, or it's just not easy on the wrist. The benefit of an Eastern at the very opposite end, semi-Western, which I wouldn't recommend for most players, but the reason why those grips are very useful is because it does actually turn that paddle face down, which allows you to swing mechanically the right way. So
she has a good problem here.
Yeah,
that's a good problem.
So number one, Melissa, I would stick with the Eastern grip, and then we have a lot of videos on this, Melissa. So check out go to our channel. There's some on the serve and just topspin in general. We talk about the Eastern grip all the time. Check that out. Thank you, Melissa. All right,
Karen. Got a question from Karen in Cali. She's a 4-5. Do you see the value in teaching beginners the dink game because of where the game is evolving? Or would you agree that the serve, forehand, backhand, ground stroke, footwork, third shot decisions, etc. is more important since they rarely get past 3 shots?
Wow. Man, Karen, super, actually, really good question. Love this question. You know what? At this point, Dawson, these are one of the things that I really had to think about as I've coached almost a decade now and worked with players, worked through my game, because in the like if you started when I started, Dawson, serving big and big top spin shots, all this stuff wasn't even a thing.
Right.
So to answer the question directly, do I see a value of teaching beginners to dink? Yes, I do. I still see a big value. Number one is ball control and learn. Like, again, if I take a very, very beginner, right, I do want to teach them just simple low to high mechanics, those kinds of things, and then footwork, super important. Now, if I'm trying to train somebody for, let's say you come to me, Dawson, never played a racket sport.
Right.
I'm entering a 2-0, 2-5, 3-0 tournament next week. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to have you hit any dinks, actually.
Right.
So you're kind of right on both ends, Karen. Like, I would, you're right. Rarely the past 3 shots, for sure the past 5. In this podcast, if you're listening to this and you're a 3-5 or below, the serve, the return, the third shot, whether it's a drop or drive, and then your fourth shot counter are the most important shots that you should be practicing. So yes, there's a lot of things to focus on, but again, it's still a big value of a dink game. When I teach my kids right now, Dawson, right, I could have them just swing balls from the baseline, or I could just teach them nice touch, just feed them balls. And right now I have a 8, 6, and 4-year-old. The 6 and 4-year-old, I'm just feeding balls and they're just kind of dinking. And they're just getting a feel of the sweet spot on the paddle. I think that's really important, in the hand-eye. So big value in that, but you do have to mix it if you're continuing to coach somebody like that, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Next, we have
Russ Moon from, I'm not going to,
Russ Moon.
Yeah, Russ Moon. All right.
Mechanicsville. Come on.
Mechanicsville, Virginia.
Virginia. I don't even know if that's a real. You think that's a real place?
I don't know. I thought I read it and I was like Mechanicsville.
Okay.
All right. Drills in resetting overheads and topspin drops. So I guess he's asking for drills to reset overheads and topspin drops.
Yeah. I would just say to that, thank you, Russ. But we have a ton of stuff on our channel. If you actually just type in on the YouTube search bar Briones Pickleball and then overhead or Briones Pickleball reset, in our videos where we teach, we actually have a lot there. If you join our newsletter, which actually you would be part of it, we also provide a lot. But do the YouTube thing first, and we actually have a lot of resources there for you. Thank you, Russ. Thank you. Moving on.
Sweet. Next question. Going through them. I need up a little bit. There we go. From Vito. Vito's asking, when I'm trying to return a serve from a player that serves very fast, my return is not what it should be. Several things happen that I am having trouble resolving. Number 1, my returns are short, which is not good. Number 2, sometimes my returns are long and out of the court. I try to soften my hands, but the results are the same. And number 3, I return it into the net. All caps, help.
Vito,
That's tough.
No, but an old client of mine, actually, I know Vito. Shout out to you, Vito. Thanks for sending in this question. He's actually come here and trained very beginning early on when I moved to Arizona. So good to hear that you're still playing, Vito. But I just want to just kind of mention really quick, you trying to soften your hands and the results still the same. Now, softening the grip in the paddle on your returns and making it a little bit harder, let's say you're squeezing it 3 out of 10 to 7 out of 10, that will help a little bit, but that doesn't move the needle that much, right? The biggest key thing on your returns is your spacing, like where the ball is, and then your actual stroke, Vito. So just in general, okay, this is very generalized without actually looking at your stroke in person, but if the balls are sailing out, your swing path is very, very linear. So it's not like you have like a ton of slice on it or topspin, and your paddle face is very open, right? Sailing out. If it's to the net, that means we need either more topspin or we need to open our paddle face if we're just hitting like a flat ball or a slice ball. But basically, it's really has to do with swing path. Right. And then at contact, right? If your paddle's super open, that ball is going like this. The paddle's super closed, the ball is going like this. So that's why, we're seeing in the men's game, women's game today, players are hitting with topspin on their returns. But realistically, they're hitting the ball pretty up and down like this, but they are actually hitting it in a manner where it's going up and hitting topspin. So,
right.
Vito, footwork, spacing, hopefully we'll maybe see you in a 5-day. But thanks, Vito. Keep working on it, man. What do we got?
Sweet. From Richard in Canada. Twice.
Come on, man. Try the city name.
Trios Canada.
There we go. All right. I don't know if we said that right, but
twice I asked high-level instructors to evaluate me and my partner, hoping to receive an improvement plan, which we never did. To me, such a plan includes specific drills. What can I do? Sounds like you've got something for that, actually. What's an improvement plan? Yeah.
Oh, okay. He's asking for specific drills. What can I do? Well, it just seems like, Richard, thank you for that question. Is he just venting right now?
Well, okay. I read that as put me in a 5-day intensive. He wants coaching and instruction.
Hey,
and
Richard,
improvement.
come to a 5-day intensive. We'd love to see you. Check the link below. But you asked the instructor to receive an improvement plan. You didn't receive it. And a plan needs specific drills. What can you do? Richard, I would really, let's see, 4-0. Okay. You say you're around a 4-0. I would really look at the certain parts of your game, and I would write down 3, right? Let's say it's your return game, your counters, whatever. 3 things. And then out of those 3 things, I would pick 1 or 2 drills that you could find on our YouTube videos, or just 1 or 2 drills that you can do to improve that. And then I would start hacking away on that skill. Let's say it's let's say counters. Well, we can pick any skill, right? But players are speeding up at you and your counters are very weak and you want to get them stronger. Pick 2 or 3 drills that you're going to do with a partner, and then start to, write out your own improvement plan. And that's how you're going to see progress. But yeah, love to see you. Canada, we actually have a lot of Canadians come to our 5-day intensive. So love to see you, Richard. Thank you for the comment. And we will move on to the next one. Thank you, Richard.
Edwin from Washington, D.C. On a third shot originating from beyond the baseline because of a deep, very fast serve, should one drop or drive the ball when returning team has both players with solid volley skills at the non-volley zone line? If you say drop, then where should we drop? Center or to the backhand of the left-sided player?
Yeah, so...
We kind of touched on this already.
Yeah, we kind of touched on it. But again, as players are returning more aggressively, which you talked about, Dawson.
Yeah.
They're not only hitting with pace, but now it's with topspin and it's very deep. I would really encourage you all right now, if you're watching, if you don't have a good drive, I think it's one of the skills that's so underlooked at below 4.0 levels. And why I say this is because if you are looking to drop the ball all the time, number 1, it's very tough to do. Number 2, you're not really putting a ton of pressure on your opponents, especially if you're playing a tennis player or a banger. So it really depends. But again, if you have great drops, sure.
Yeah.
Hit your drops.
Yeah.
But again, if you can't rely on your drops, you have to be able to figure out how you're going to last in this point. And you can't just like hit the ball really high. So that's why having a good drive is really important. And last question, if you do have good drops, you do drop center or drop to the backhand of the left side player. Again, I want you to think about this, whether I'm driving or dropping, Dawson. One of the things that I think about is I always have kind of 4 different options.
Right.
I like to keep things really simple. There's really more, but there's really 4. I have option A, which is the player right in front of me.
Right.
And I could drive or drop to the forehand or backhand. Then I have option B player that's cross court from me, and I can drop or drive to the forehand and backhand. So what am I looking at here? I'm looking at the threat that is the least amount of threat coming back. So if I notice that someone is struggling with their counters, or they're making a lot of mistakes or more mistakes on one side, you got to go there. So it's going to change. Obviously, dropping middle is very smart strategically. But again, if that is killing you because whoever is in that middle is grabbing that ball and putting a lot of pressure on you, you might want to drop towards the outsides. So find the weakness. Find the weakness. Thank you so much for that question. Vito again. Go ahead.
My serves are hitting the net at least twice during the game. I have what we call in the golf world the Yips.
The Yips.
Afraid to serve it hard and just lobbing it onto the court.
Yeah, Yips are tough, Vito. I'm sure, I don't know, if I were to throw out a number, 20% of you listening to this podcast probably had the Yips at some point. It really is a mental thing. But again, if it's hitting the net, again, Vito, we have to look at your swing, and we have to look at the point of contact where your paddle is. Every time that ball is hitting the net, your paddle is like, it's too close. It's too close, that contact. So mechanically, we have to work on that. But again, if you're playing a tournament and you just got to get the ball in, sometimes that's all you have to do. I mean, that's what you need to do. So I totally get it. But start slow. And with players with the Yips, again, we're dealing with mental and we're dealing with technical. So 2 different things. But go out there with a basket of balls and really just start really slow. And I think the biggest mistake where players go wrong is they're trying to make this big adjustments on their serve, and then they're hitting it so hard. So start I like to tell players at a 60 to 70% swing. So that's very loose and very fluid. And the main thing is repeatable. Okay. So when it comes to any shot in pickleball, being repeatable is the most important. So that's what I would start with. Vito, thank you for that question.
Sweet.
Next.
From Marty from Delaware says, where do I place a third shot when the other team has someone near the center line waiting to poach?
All right.
He's got a Gabe and a Ben.
Yeah. Well, Marty, that's a tough one. But again, if someone's clogging the middle, obviously dropping it cross court, dropping it more towards the corners of the court is very effective. But again, that lends itself to players having the ability to earning and things like that. If you're playing at the 3-5 level, which you are, I'm sure that's not happening. So my suggestion to you is work on your drives as an option along with your drops, and also drop towards the outside of the court, but you got to leave margin. At the 3-5 level, I see this all the time. Players aiming their drops in the corner, they're missing wide by a few inches or a foot, and that's so many errors. I'd rather actually have you just hit your drops towards the middle and not miss a ball, because at 3-5, they're going to miss shots. The other thing, you're talking about somebody up there waiting to poach. My thing is, if your drops were actually really good, it wouldn't really matter.
Right.
So I'm assuming your drops need a little bit of work too. So keep working on it, Marty.
Yeah, for drop bounces, doesn't matter where they are.
Yeah.
Same thing. Okay.
Alrighty.
From,
Okay.
what's the name? Jerry Lee. Your student is sending a video to prove that backspin shot after bouncing reverses into topspin, albeit less RPM. Is it really true then that backspin just gives your opponent hitting topspin more ammunition? Yeah, that's actually an interesting question.
You get the question, right?
Yeah.
So
basically,
yeah.
Backspin to topspin.
So we've seen this. Everyone, Zane has done something on his channel, and we've just heard this talk by so many players. If I hit slice and the ball is rotating this way, am I going to give my opponent more topspin? This one's a tough one for me to answer because theoretically or physically, it makes sense.
Yeah.
So yes, you are, but again, that doesn't mean that slice is super bad either. Because if you can, if you can slice the ball and actually keep the ball very low, it's very hard to get under the ball. But I really wouldn't focus too much on, should I hit this backspin? Should I not? The biggest key thing is your shot quality, Jerry. And if you're hitting slices, and this is what I used to do, even 5 years ago, Dawson. I mean, I returned everything with a slice, but my slices kind of sat up, and they're getting me to the line, but they're super high. And if they're super high and landing in your opponent's drive strike zone at the waist level, yeah, it's going to be a very easy ball for them to attack. But if your slices are very low, they're cutting and they're below knee level,
right?
And those are tough ones. But so
I'm just gonna get real technical real quick for Jerry Lee.
Okay. Okay.
As somebody who's taken physics very recently in college,
physics, that's the word I was looking for.
Yep. Because of Newton's law, if the ball bounces and it has backspin, it's no longer gonna have backspin. As soon as it bounces, it obviously spins the opposite way, right? This is like if you take a pickleball and you spin it in your hand, when it bounces, it might go that way if you spin it really hard, but if you kind of just give it a little bit of spin, it's going to bounce, and the spin will either reverse or it'll just kind of cancel out.
I guess we'll have to slow-mo it though.
We can.
Yeah.
And that's maybe something, Jerry Lee, you want to go and, a really good example of this is a basketball. If you spin a basketball,
yes,
as soon as it touches the ground, it comes back up the opposite way.
Yes.
Spinning the opposite way. So technically speaking, if your slice shot touches the ground, no, you are not giving your opponent extra topspin. But what I've seen before is I've tried to slice a ball to drop it, and it's just way too high, and my opponent rolls it, and it has a lot of topspin. Maybe it's just a good roll. Maybe it's because I gave them that topspin.
Yeah.
But, there has been times where I go to slice drop, and it's way too high, and it's like, gosh, I just gave them,
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think there's a reason that the pros only hit topspin shots really that ever bounce. Slice shots that only bounce. Like a slice return is going to bounce.
Yep.
A slice dink, it's going to bounce. Even a good slice drop, it's got to bounce.
Yeah, you're never going to see a pro really, sometimes in singles, but you're never going to see a pro hit like a volley out of the air and try to slice it, right?
Right.
But
hand battle.
I think that's a good, point, Dawson. Really, before even really answering that, we would really have to test it. I don't know, because of the actual grit on the pickleball and how a basketball, I get it, because it spins and it's very grippy and bounces and it compresses. I don't know. Well, maybe we'll do a slow-mo video to see, but I get what you're saying. We would really have to test it, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be like as extreme as people make it. So that's my whole point. We'll hop on the next one. Thank you, Jerry.
All right, from Dave Capello in Sun Lakes, Arizona. Jordan, 2 questions actually. First, where do you see paddle tech and regulations headed to 2025? I like that one. Gen 3 with Kevlar/titanium weave. How much tech is too much? Recreational players are going to be overpowered. Of the trajectory keeps going up and up. If the trajectory keeps going up and up. Second question. Who besides Caden is going to have a breakout year on the PPA in 2025?
Yeah, good questions. Dave, thank you. Actually, he was in one of our 5-day intensives, so I really appreciate Dave. Come join us. Come join Caden and I. We'd love to have a great time with you and improve your game. I'm going to talk about the first question first. Where do I see paddle technology? Guys and gals, I want to show you the paddle of the year.
Oh, boy.
It's not out yet.
Oh, boy.
And it's new tech. Tabletop pickleball. No, I'm just kidding.
I got excited for that for a minute. I was like, maybe this is a paddle I've never seen.
No. But paddle tech of the year, yeah, it's a huge problem. Obviously, there's so much controversy. Selkirk, USA, PA. There's so much. Shout out to Chris Olsen on Pickleball Studio, John Q. Those guys are the experts on that kind of stuff. But just from me from a coach perspective, I hope just things get fixed up and just that we decide as a whatever as a community. It's not even gonna be our decisions. I hope the uppers decide on what really is going to be the limit, so that players know what's happening and things like that. But again, the paddles are going to keep getting pushed to the limit unless the limit gets lowered or changed or whatever. So how much tech is too much? I'm not sure. I do think the game right now, I mean, if the paddles got more powerful from the mods right now and stuff like that, it would be like, it would be shorter. It'd definitely be shorter rallies, and players would, want to like speed up or counter really as quick as possible. I don't think it doesn't help the recreational players, I believe, that much, right? Because players are going to just be speeding up very quickly, things like that. But if that's where the game, let's just say hypothetically,
right?
We can't change anything, Dawson. That's where the game is going.
Yeah.
So that's what the game becomes, and we have to like NBA, for example, right? The 3-point shot. Shout out to Steph Curry, right? Yeah. I mean, everyone is now hitting 3-point shots. So I'm just telling you what, if this game continues and never gets held back on power, you're gonna have to learn how to speed up, and be that guy, be that gal. So second question, who's gonna have a breakout here besides Caden and the PPA? A lot of notable players. I've seen Zane Ford. He's I've just seen him play singles. I've seen a little bit of his doubles. He's somebody that's really on the up and coming that I'm excited to watch out because of his game style. Obviously CJ Klinger, kind of not really a secret, but we're gonna see how he continues to grow, and I'm excited to see Kwang Duong grow his game. Now, obviously, we've seen him medal and things like that, but really in doubles, I'm excited to see how he grows his game. And the new partnership with Ben and Gabe, I'm excited to see that. So I don't know. I gotta do some more research on that, I guess. But here we go. Thank you, Dave.
Sweet. Next question from Kylie, La Canada, California.
Whoa, is that Is it?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. What are your feelings about the tournament fees that keep going up, yet there's no monetary award for the lower rating events? That's a good question because they're expensive.
Yep. Super valid. And I'll get your feedback on this, Dawson, but it sucks, obviously, for the recreational player. Unfortunately, that's just what happens when a sport grows. A lot of different organizations. Again, I don't love it for the players who just love the game and love to play. My recommendation, you can probably speak to this, Dawson, but there are a lot of groups, there are a lot of organizations, there are a lot of people putting in like kind of local tournaments or cash games and things like that are way cheaper. If you don't want to be affiliated or you just want to get experience and stuff like that, you don't have to go to the PPA to play a tournament. Now, it is good to do that. But I'm saying if you want to dip your toe in the water and compete and just have fun, there's a lot of local things, hopefully, that are growing in your area. But I know, Dawson, you actually, why don't you, I don't know, any thoughts?
Yeah, I got two main thoughts. So first, just like you're saying, Jordan, local things are going to be the best, I think, when you're talking about getting better and improving and getting that tournament style of pressure in your games without paying that $400 fee, that you're going to get from 2 or 3 events at the PPA. The PPA is expensive. It's not, I personally, okay. So, and sorry, if this offends some, but I don't think I'd be going to the PPA as a 3-5 trying to, and I'm not, if you have the money and that's something you want to do, awesome. I think the PPA is one of those things where it's like, if you're looking to go pro and you're looking to eventually get to that pro level, then getting that experience in the PPA is going to be really helpful at that 4-5, 5-0 pro qualifiers, pro level. But as far as 3-5, I think go hit up as many cash games as you can, as many local round robins, $5 entry cash games. And the other funny thing that I'll add to this is I play out in Arizona, as everyone kind of knows, we're in Arizona, and I play a lot of cash games, almost every single one that I can. There's one about 2 or 3 times a month.
How much are those here?
$75 to $90 to enter, depending on the division. So not terrible, and the payouts are normally pretty good. You get an
amateur,
$300 or $400.
Yeah, and amateurs get paid out.
Right, exactly. So look at cash games, look at local stuff. Start your own. If there's none, start your own. If that's an issue you're seeing, just create a Swish group, $5 Monday nights or whatever, and start your own cash games. But second thing, real quick, when you go to the PPA, for an example, I drove from Arizona to San Clemente and I played like 5 people that I knew from Gilbert, Arizona. And it was like we literally all paid like $400, drove out to San Clemente and played each other when I could have just texted them up and been like, hey, let's meet 10 minutes from our house.
Dude, what is that called? What is that effect called? There's got to be a phrase.
I don't know.
But like that happens so often. I remember when I was playing a lot of tournaments, like okay, now I'm like playing someone I already play. I don't know. There's got to be a phrase or name for that. But yeah, that and also like again to your point, Dawson. Yeah, if you're just trying to get better tournament experience, go that route. Now, if you don't care about the money and you love the traveling, you love to meet people from all over.
True.
Going to those big events, PPA, could be a lot of fun. And also, if you just want to see the pros play and be there with them, that's obviously another opportunity. But again, they are expensive. Really sucks.
They're very expensive.
But yeah, let's move on.
Yeah. All right. From Doug from Whidbey Island says, when playing in open sessions, how do you diplomatically deal with a player you are partnered with who doesn't try to make it up to the non-volley zone line? Oh gosh.
I'm gonna throw this to you, Dawson.
Okay. Encouragement and helpful coaching, right? It depends if the person's, you're at a 3-5 level, maybe you're playing with a 2-5, maybe you're playing with another 3-5. Some people just need a little bit of knowledge, whether that's, hey dude, after the game, right? Not during, because you don't want to start a fight or anything like that, but maybe after the game, just walk up and say, like, hey, just one thing I like to do is make it up to the non-volley zone line. So, kind of encourage them and coach them.
I like that, dude.
If somebody's really stubborn and that's just not what they're wanting to do, I'd say poach everything if you're really needing to win in a rec game.
There you go.
Just encourage them. Teach them. Maybe they don't know.
Hey, couldn't have said it better. I like that. And again, Yeah, diplomatically. That's tough. You're in open play. You do what you can.
Right.
Players who are looking for that feedback and just want to improve, they're going to love it. Players who are stuck in their ways won't. Try. That's just what you got to deal with. Maybe you don't try to play with them again. Put your paddle in a different rack. I don't know. But yeah, let's keep it moving. Okay, we're gonna do a few more questions here, Dawson. Coming up on the hour, so we'll do 2 more.
All right, from Rich in Saratoga Springs, Utah, says scenario.
4 or 5.
I know. Okay, we're getting a scenario. Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
I like this.
Imagination's got to set in here. I hit a third shot drop, and my opponent's return with a high topspin 4th. I try hitting a topspin drop 5th, and he counters with another high topspin 6th. And we keep at this until one of us, usually me, hits the net. I'm not able to advance to the kitchen line since I know the next shot will be hit with topspin and power. What are effective shots or strategies to use in this scenario? Should I reset rather than hitting a topspin drop? Should I redirect the return to the other partner? Or should I drive instead of dropping? How should I break out of the cycle?
Okay, I have to kind of read this again. Okay, so
he's hit
go ahead, Dawson.
Third. He hits his third with topspin.
Yeah.
And they counter it with topspin. And he's stuck back. So he hits a 5th with topspin to try to drop it. And they counter with topspin. So it's, I mean, to me, it's just like high drops.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So yes. So what is his name? Rich B. Thank you, Rich. So it seems to me like, if Dawson's explaining it right, yeah, I love actually you're trying to hit with topspin and be aggressive, but obviously maybe it's something you're still working through and getting that technique. And every single ball is going high or out of the air, right? We're not really talking about, it doesn't seem like reading into this that your balls are actually bouncing. Right. They could be or not be, but they're getting attacked. So the main thing that I think about here is we need to work on that skill. And something that just comes to my mind really quick. Okay. If I hit a topspin third drop and it's high,
right, and
they are hitting with extreme topspin on their volley back, I'm probably not hitting topspin on that next ball. So I'm setting it in, right? Like, oh shoot, or I'm driving. I'm really trying to not hit another high ball.
Exactly.
So you can do that by hitting a simple. So if I try to hit a topspin drop and then they're hitting with topspin because my drop wasn't perfect, maybe I just set it in with a little scoop, with a little slice, with just a little lift, or I drive it, try to get out of it and break that pattern, like you said, and then look for a 5th shot drop. Perfect. Right? But the big key thing is if somebody is hitting you a shot with a ton of topspin, that's really not the time to try to be super aggressive on the next ball.
Right.
That's one you want to set in. And this is why you see pros, if in a kind of different scenario, but hopefully this makes sense. But this is why you see pros hit their third shot drives, and then they 95% of the time hit a drop. They're not going to hit another drive or something like that unless it sets up. So
yeah,
I encourage you to keep practicing your topspin drops. But yeah, if you're hitting 3rd, 5th, and 7th drops, that means, obviously we need to work on it, something in your technique and your footwork to get that ball dropping down. Thank you so much, Rich. Last question here.
All right, Patty from Colorado. Concentration, anticipation, and after you've hit a winning shot, only to lose the point.
This is a good one. So what that means, I know you're kind of confused on that, but I think I could explain. The concentration, anticipation, after you've hit a winning shot, only to lose a point. I think I'm reading into this where Patty thinks she's hitting a winning point, and then it's not a winning point, and then the ball comes back. So it could be that, or it could be, I don't see any other way it could be, but.
That's a good point, though. It happens when you're playing better players. I mean, I had a moment where I was like, and I'm watching the ball, and then it comes back. I'm like, what the heck? That's not supposed to come back.
Yeah. So Patty, the biggest key thing, you probably heard this a lot, but this is actually more and more and more important the higher level you go. So if you're listening to this, I want you to really think about this. The higher level you go, the whole expect every ball to come back becomes more and more and more important. So not only the if we're anticipating every ball to come back and concentrating, I mean, until that ball lands on the ground 2 times or in the net, I'm trying my best to stay like super laser focused. Yeah. And even if I like am 99.9% sure that I think I put the ball away,
right,
I'm not going to relax almost.
Exactly.
Now I don't want to be stiff and tense, but I'm not going to relax my intensity until that point is 100%. Fully over. Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Dawson?
It's tough because sometimes it really is like you hit a winner and then you kind of lose focus and it comes back. But no, I agree. I think the number one thing is just, whatever shot you hit, whether it's an overhead or a topspin volley out of the air, just resetting your paddle and watching the ball till the point's over.
Yeah.
Easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah.
I get it.
Thank you, Patty, for that question. Again, we'll have a place where you can submit your questions below. Happy New Year, everyone. I hope that this is a great year for you. Again, this sport is growing. It's changing. It's evolving. Stay in tune with everything we're doing. We have some exciting things happening at Briones Pickleball in the next 12 months. TBA, to be announced. Super excited. Anything? I don't know. Anything for you, Dawson? Anything you're shouting out right now?
Yeah, well, so real quick, if you've got any suggestions or helpful things like that, comment them below. Somebody commented on the last video, hey, throw the questions up on the screen.
Yeah.
And we did.
Okay.
So yeah, if maybe you see something and you're like, hey, I don't know, here's a helpful comment down below, or what you want to see next, or whatever.
Yeah.
Give us ideas.
There you go. Thank you so much, everyone. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast and give us a review if you would like. Make it a good one. That'd be nice. And then, make sure you stay up to date with our videos. Thanks, Dawson.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right. See you, everybody.